Team Liquid has taken the decision to suspend Dardoch, their jungler, and from active play, and they are not going to lift the suspension, and they're even considering a potential roster move if teams are open to it. So this is very significant news. I mean, Dardoch, for my money, was the second best player on Team Liquid. Piglet was the star prime carry, clearly. Phoenix had some good games, but Dardoch was like the key X factor who his development over the split allowed them to become a team who could challenge for a final spot in the NALCS. I mean, he was the rookie. He was only a rookie in the last split. He was actually the best rookie of the split of NALCS. He won that from the LoL Esports Award. I thought he was a key component of Team Liquid. Like, he had carry games as a jungler, and obviously carry champions were in for a decent amount of the split. And he really set the tone of the team. Like, if he could get his ganks off, then they became a much, much more dangerous team that didn't just have to rely upon some 50-game drag-out battle. You saw some of the big playoff games he had where he almost single-handedly won some key games for Team Liquid in their big series. And more importantly than all of that, in context of value as a player, he's an NA resident and a talented one. Now, those are rare at the moment in NALCS. So you have to consider that the wording of how this is all phrased in the press release literally says that the reason he was suspended was insubordination. So there's a lot of ways this could have manifested. Could be not listening to the coach. Could be refusing to do what is told by the coach. Could be not respecting teammates and then being told that that's not the way you should behave and you refuse to correct your behavior. Liquid 112, Steve Arneset, the owner of Team Liquid, actually said that Dardoch had been suspended since the 18th of May. So this isn't something fresh. This means that they've had him suspended for a while, something they've been working for a while. They even say that they flew out their psychologist to Korea to work on this. The team's been in Korea, so they're in a pressure cooker scenario where they're supposed to be practicing to get better and improve things and get ready for the split. And the fact that they're now open to a transfer and that they've flown this guy and it didn't work and that they've kept him suspended for this long suggests that they haven't found a solution. It doesn't look like there's one on the horizon. Things aren't fixed right now. That's why he's not being removed from being suspended. That's why they're officially announcing it, since LCS is only like a week out. So you have to realize this is one of the problems with having one of your best players, one of your most talented players, be 18 years old. Now, this guy was 17 for most of the split. He turned 18 on the 10th of April. He's only freshly become 18, so he doesn't have a lot of life experience. He doesn't have experience in his career because he's a rookie for LCS this split. And as a result, he doesn't know how to navigate some of these waters. He doesn't have experience of making mistakes or seeing what other people do within a team. He doesn't necessarily have veterans in the team around him who can give him that counsel, tell him how to do things like they do in the NBA when you're a young talent. They have that old veteran guy who maybe was a star himself one day who's going, nah, listen, young fella, like, give the team time, be patient with the front office, they'll get you the players in time. This guy, yeah, he's making mistakes now, but he's going to improve over the season, and next season is going to be better. Like, he doesn't have someone around him to give him that counsel. The problem with the younger players in general is that they tend not to look at the bigger picture. It's all about today. And so if something goes wrong today, it's life or death. It's the end of the world. Things are going apeshit. If there's an argument, it gets even worse today because they don't think, what's it going to be like tomorrow? Should I give this a week? Should I have some breathing room? Also, I found in general, younger people have a lot bigger trouble saying sorry. Like, they think to themselves, well, if there's a way I can justify that my point had merit or I was right, then they'll never say sorry. They'll never put their ego aside to say that, okay, even in this scenario, I think I made the correct decision. I understand that I can't talk to my coach that way, so I apologize for breaching the boundary between player and coach and making myself more than the team. Or I apologize to my teammates that I was egotistical in this instance and I took attention away from focusing and trying to improve. I'm sorry that even though I played the best out of everyone in that game, I wasn't willing to look at my own mistakes, and I was too busy focused and tunneled on the minor mistake of the worst player in the team, for example. A lot of young people have difficulty with that issue, and it's a team dynamic issue that I've seen happen with young players a lot of the time, especially if they're star players like this and they're very active style of players. They're not like that passive, reckless style of player who is a more laid-up personality and is going into teams with loads of veterans, etc., who've accomplished a lot more than him and who are better than him. So the other issue is star player aspect. If you're a star player, that comes with ego because you have to be confident. You have to believe that you're the best. You have to, well, I mean, that part's definitely debatable, but that a lot of people say that you have to believe you're the best. You have to think that you are good and that what you do has merit and that you're practicing the right way. And you have to, unfortunately, when you're the star player, because you have the responsibility of winning and losing the game, you often want some of the decision making in that. So then if people don't want to practice the way or want to play the way you want, you're going to speak up. And unfortunately, that can then manifest in negative ways. People aren't very articulate or aren't very good at saying things in a tactful manner. It's going to come across as disrespectful or that they're troublemaking or that they're divas. Now, it said in the quote, that actually Dardoch himself said this. He said, "There's been team dynamic issues that have made it hard for me to stay level-headed." Now, interestingly enough, even though he identifies that and says it in this statement, it's not that he couldn't stay level-headed, it's that they can't fix the problem. Somehow this is irreconcilable. Now that's my problem. There's almost nothing can be that bad. If we're talking about player relationships inside a team and teammate to coach, there's almost nothing can be that bad after one split and now a few weeks of practice after the split that can be so bad that it's irreconcilable. This is where, unfortunately, I have to call immaturity, because he hasn't even seen what's going to happen in a split. If he keeps playing and the coach turns out to be wrong, or whatever the issue is that's wrong, maybe eventually the manager goes, "Oh, actually, yeah, I see your point there. We're going to bring in a new coach." Or, "You know what? We brought in new players who've made this not as big an issue." Suddenly, it can't be life or death after this short amount of time. That is a problem on his end, no matter, even if he's justified in a lot of what he says. That's a problem. That you've got to be able to reconcile things. You've got to be able to play your contract out, or you've got to be reasonable and ask for a transfer. Don't do it where you get suspended and then they have to transfer you because you have no use to them anymore and they want to get some value from you. This is a problem in that particular sense. Now, the fact that the team is going to uphold the suspension, they're not going to remove it, and now they are considering transfer issues, is bad for everyone. It's bad for Team Liquid. They're losing one of their best players, and someone also who, remember, is an NA resident and one of the best players. So as a result, they're worth their weight in gold. If there was any way to fix this, Team Liquid would not be making this potential transfer, because, like I say, you want to have those other slots in the team open for the Koreans, and hopefully your NA slots be some of the best players. That's a dream come true for most teams. There's very few teams can do that right now. So this is really, really bad for them, that one of their best players is going to have to leave, and they're going to give up an NA residency slot to someone who's potentially worse. So in that particular sense, you can tell that it's a really bad scenario of whatever's gone on. I do think, though, that this is a good move by Team Liquid, the suspension initially, because I think it creates a culture of respect for the coach and the hierarchy of the team, and that even if you're the star player, you can certainly have a big voice, and a bigger voice than other players perhaps, but you do not get to be the one who has the overruling decision-making, who can dominate the whole team and make everyone dance to your merry jig. That's not going to happen, and that shouldn't be allowed to happen in any of these teams. I also think it promotes a culture of team cooperation. No matter who you are, no matter what happens, no matter how our differences are in the team, what they are, we have to be able to get along. We have to find compromises. We have to be able to work together and have to have some sort of harmony within the team, at least around how we play. Maybe not on a personal level. Maybe we can find compromises in that respect. We don't spend time around players who don't get along in a particular sense, or we separate them, etc. But as long as in the game it still works and people do their jobs, that's enough. I also think this shows the difference between the Western regions and the Asian regions, because in Korea, you just don't hear these stories. If these things happen, players get benched, and then they know they might never get in the game again. It's not about their skill anymore. They must conform to the system overall. Players get removed from teams. There's a famous example where there was a player called Ring Troll who played for Incredible Miracle. This is in early 2013, and he was one of the best players on the team, and he was removed purely because he wouldn't maintain the curfew that the team had in the team. He wasn't coming back to the team house within the amount of couple of hours they allowed you out, and their final hour that you had to be within the team house environment. He wouldn't do it, and so rather than let him, one of the best players, let everyone else potentially run riot and say, well, if he's doing it, I'm going to do it, and cause an uproar, they just kicked him from the team entirely. Now, the team never recovered from that, and he never had a career after that, and other teams didn't want to pick him up. So you can see all the problems that could exist, but at least it was the right move in as much as that he didn't just allow him to destroy the whole team environment. Now, it does happen a bit in China. We have heard some stories of some of the Koreans, like Mata, just being absolutely outrageous in how they behaved, or Insec. Now, they are outside of the Korean system, and if anything, I think that shows that the Korean approach works in that respect, because when they're not in that system and they're unbounded and they're paid these massive amount of money and they know that they have to be played, then they've run riot. And you can see the problem that can occur when that happens, and why Team Liquid's trying to nip something like that in the bud right now. I also think there are past teams which should have done this who didn't. I mean, obviously, a great precedent is that Team Liquid did do it with Piglet, and they got him back on track, and he became a fantastic player who did fit to the system, whereas maybe he was egotistical before. And I don't necessarily agree with the way they did it, that whole storyline of like his mum being called up, and then his mum like berating him and telling him he's like a fuck up in life or whatever. And that's a bit too harsh, actually, and I think that's a bit dirty to play on like personal relationships with your family in that particular way, so we'll ignore that for the moment. I do think a great example of where they should have been done in the past is Doublelift in CLG. There's many times where, yes, he was the best player, yes, he was the carry, yes, he was the main reason the team was doing well, but his attitude could have been curbed, or better habits could have been promoted if he'd been suspended. If you'd been able to do this to him, if you'd been able to show him we're not just going to accept you short-circuiting your team dynamic, not accept you berating teammates, not going to accept you disobeying the coach. This can't happen in this particular scenario, and you've got to come in line in this respect, even though you are the star player. It wasn't done, and I feel like that's a big issue. So I think this is a good move by Team Liquid, even though I think it will make their team weaker, and if they have to transfer him, I don't think this will be good for them. I don't think it'll be good for Dardoch either, because if this issue's here now, I can see this sort of thing occurring in future teams. It's very unlikely that everyone in the team is going to go do things the way you want, and that the coach is always going to do things the way you want. And you are a young guy, remember, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you still have to learn. You still have to understand that not everything you think's correct. And if there are problems, you have to learn problem solving techniques, ways to make decisions that allow you to stay within a circumstance without necessarily having to agree with the person, just to get past it, to remain within the unit and to be able to work. Otherwise, like my boy D. Rodman, you're going to end up suspended, son, and it's not going to be good for anyone.